come on, make a move. Everybody, say it, make a move.
It seems to have become commonplace to correct a stranger in public who, for example, is not wearing a mask or picking up after their dog or maybe walking on a sand dune near the ocean. Some of us may be wondering when it is appropriate to engage in this kind of behavior. Here's a very simple and obvious answer. Never correct the public behavior of any stranger in any way at any time. Never correct the public behavior of any stranger in any way at any time. First and most importantly, this person is a stranger. We have no idea how they might react to our scolding. Second, unless one is a certified mediator, maybe even then, there's a very good chance that our correction will be less than tactful, potentially aggravating the situation. Third, do we honestly think this is going to have any long-term impact whatsoever? If anything, it will encourage the corrected person to defiantly engage in more of that same behavior. And please don't hearken back to the good old days when strangers behaved better or weren't a threat or whatever. It's not the strangers who have changed, it's us. Some of us may remember the 60s when every public space was viewed as a giant trash can. As this started to change, and it did change, do you remember people accosting each other in the parks, telling them to pick up their trash? No. If they had, they probably would have been in for, in the vernacular of the time, a sock on the jaw or maybe a black eye. No, the strangers haven't changed. We have. We cannot keep our big mouths shut. And let's face it, when we correct strangers, we are doing it for one reason and one reason only, to make ourselves feel better. It gives us a chance, and Lord knows we're always looking for one, in this case, literally, to point to those bad humans over there, to demonstrate our own moral superiority. And we do this while continuing to engage in behavior that would allow a reasonable person to point that finger right back at us. No? Speeding, talking on a cell phone while driving, taxes. Are we riding a bike to work? Are we volunteering our time to replace sand dunes? Are we completely isolating ourselves, which is the best way to avoid COVID? Why not? We'd be saving lives, right? If someone is breaking the law, by all means, call the authorities. If you own a store and don't want people coming in without masks, by all means, have a security guard, not a cashier for heaven's sake. Enforce your wishes. It's your store. If you want to allow entry to customers who only walk on their hands, well, that's up to you. Your customers will let you know whether this is a wise choice. When we get into a heated discussion with a stranger, and this is often what happens when we criticize them, it's like walking through a bad neighborhood bedazzled with gold jewelry. Should we be able to do this without being robbed? Of course. Does this make it a good idea? Of course not. Grandma would have called this asking for trouble. Aurora, Colorado. A cook refuses to serve a customer because he isn't wearing a mask. Man, ask him nicely to wear a mask and then serve him either way. Is it really worth a physical confrontation? Well, the cook escapes from this confrontation unscathed. The customer returns with a gun, shows it to the cook, and the cook still refuses to serve him. This is less asking for trouble and more demanding to be shot. And he was. This is an extreme example, but as my son's school principal would ask in solving a schoolyard dispute, what happened before that? Now, what happened before the mask rage incident? I'm not aware of any mask rage incident anywhere that happened because someone asked another person nicely one time to consider wearing a mask, because that's not how these engagements play out. Egads, Michael, you're saying that someone who asks someone to wear a mask deserves to be shot. Harumph, harumph. No. I'm saying that someone who publicly criticizes the behavior of a stranger should not be surprised when that interaction goes bad, perhaps very bad. So before we do this, we should ask ourselves a simple question. Am I willing to be involved in, using the old vernacular, a fist fight over this issue? Oh yes, lives are at stake. They're killing our planet. Really? Are we conducting our lives, not our mouths, our lives, as though these things were true? is it really worth it? Let's not multiply entities without necessity. No, it's not worth it.